Mission Impossible Fallout is hands down the best movie of the summer. It combined all the elements from the previous Mission Impossible films and put it together into just this wonderful package. It took the clever sort of double-crossing, intricate plot from the very first film that was directed by Brian De Palma, and also kind of carried over the plot from the fifth film that is directed by returning director and Tom Cruise machine, because he also directed Jack Reacher and Edge of Tomorrow and, of course, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. He carried sort of the characters and the elements of that story in Mission Impossible 3 into this film. And then not only the story, but it took the sort of like insane plots, or insane stunts, I should say, from the franchise overall, pretty much what we know Tom Cruise for, and put it in this picture, and it just made for an absolutely enjoyable ride, filled with plot twists, filled with crazy action sequences. And the great thing about the action sequences in this film that I thought was missing in Ghost Protocol, that was directed by Brad Bird, who kind of was known for a lot of animated films, and Ghost Protocol was like his first sort of directorial feature, was that movie felt like a lot of quips, jokes, and stunts, but not a very good story.
Mission accomplished!
So it felt kind of empty, and here this movie really feels like an updated version of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and just makes it all work in this amazing package of a movie. One great thing about this movie is that the characters are so memorable. I mean, of course, you have Tom Cruise, which is like this, you know, who's Ethan Hunt, which is this franchise's sort of James Bond in a way. He's an American James Bond. And yeah, maybe it's something that's stroking Tom Cruise's ego a little bit, but it works. It's not like Mission Impossible 2, where the whole movie was basically an entire ad for how awesome Tom Cruise is. And then, of course, you got Ving Rhames, who plays Luther, who was, you know, all the way there from the first film to this film. And, of course, that's like maybe a decade old. I'd have to look up when the first film was, but it's a very long time ago.
I can understand you're very upset. You've never seen me very upset.
And he feels like an old friend returning, and he has a lot more to do with this film than he did in Rogue Nation, which was nice. You have Simon Pegg, who basically plays, I think his name's Benji. Yeah, Benji. And he's sort of like this series version of Q from James Bond. If Q had like a lot of action stuff to do at the same time, and this movie gives Simon Pegg the most amount of action to do. We got Rebecca Ferguson, who is sort of this former spy. She carried over from Rogue Nation in this film, and she sort of plays like a former, she's not a love interest, but you could tell there's a lot of tension between the film. I guess a lot of sexual tension, which there's a little too much of that in the franchise. Luckily, they toned that down. It's like all those weird sexual tension scenes between Tom Cruise and any other female cast member of the film. It's kind of like Tom Cruise is always, let's say, running, because he's constantly running in these films. He's always running from something. I could put in a clip sort of making fun of that, but I won't. Ah, what the hell? Here you go. Of course, I can't talk about this movie without mentioning Henry Cavill, who is, and this is a slight spoiler, but not entirely. Maybe the trailers gave it away. Luckily, I didn't watch too many trailers.
How many times has Hunt's government betrayed him, disavowed him, cast him aside? How long before a man like that has had enough?
He's the film's antagonist, and he is a great equal to Ethan Hunt. You know, he literally is a current MI6 agent. He, you know, he's Superman. It's literally James Bond versus Superman in this film, or the American James Bond, I guess you could say. Certainly the whole mustache situation was totally worth it. He could keep that mustache for as long as he wants, because, I don't know, maybe in the back of Henry Cavill's mind, he's like, you know what, although it was a contract deal, I think it may be in the back of his mind, he's like, you know what, I think it's worth keeping this mustache for the good film rather than the train wreck of a film that's coming out.
Yeah!
This film, it's long, it's like 2.5 hours, but it doesn't feel like it's 2.5 hours. It just flows the whole way through. There aren't a lot of moments where you're kind of going, all right, are they going to move this along? This is dragging the plot. Because luckily the plot is so filled with twists and turns, you really have to pay attention to it. I definitely could see how Steve McQuarrie, or however you say his name, he is sort of like how David Yates was to the Harry Potter franchise. He's sort of like this to the Mission Impossible franchise, where he keeps it going, he can make so many films and keep them fresh, keep them exciting. And I'm excited to see more from this franchise. Absolute recommendation. Go check it out.